tired of your PC overheating or just not performing at its best? Well, you're in the right place. After testing countless PC case fans, we've narrowed it down to the top 5 best options for 2024 that will give you maximum performance. Whether you're a hardcore gamer or just want a quieter, cooler system, these fans have got you covered. Remember, the products are not listed in any specific order, so make sure to watch until the end to find the perfect one for you. And don't forget, all the purchase links are in the description. Let's begin. Let's talk about the CORSAIR 120mm RGB PWM fans. These fans are pretty cool for anyone wanting to boost their PC's cooling while adding some RGB flair. There's one feature that really caught my eye. So, cooling performance. If you've dealt with overheating during intense gaming or heavy workloads, these fans are built to handle that. They spin up to 2,100 RPM and push out 74.2 cubic feet of air per minute, which keeps your system chill even when you're pushing it hard. The static pressure is solid too, at 4.38 millimeters of water, making them great for radiators if you've got a high-performance setup. Now, installation. We all know cable management can be a pain, right? Well, the ICUE Link system makes it way easier. These fans link directly to each other with bridge connectors, so you end up with just one cable going to the ICUE Link system hub. It's a real time saver and keeps things looking clean inside your case. And let's be real, these fans look pretty sweet. They've got 8 RGB LEDs that you can customize through CORSAIR software. Whether you want a subtle glow or something more eye-catching, you've got options. The window in the frame is a nice touch too, letting you see the lighting from the side. But it's not all perfect. Some users have mentioned that while they're quiet at lower speeds, they can get pretty loud when you crank them up. If you're sensitive to noise, that's something to keep in mind. Also, few people have had issues with the connectors breaking during installation, which is frustrating considering these aren't cheap fans. Speaking of price, these are definitely on the pricier side. They perform well and look great, but you'll need to decide if that's worth the extra cost for your build. There's a reason they're popular, though. If you're after top-tier cooling and want your PC to look awesome, they might be worth considering. To sum it up, the CORSAIR 120mm RGB PWM fans are solid if you want to upgrade your cooling and add some RGB. They're great performers and look fantastic, but watch out for potential noise at high speeds and be careful during installation. If that sounds good to you, they could be a great addition to your setup. Check out the link below for more details and what other users are saying. Now, let's dive into the CORSAIR RGB 120mm fan kit. If you've played around with different PC case fans, you know it can be a bit of a juggling act to get that sweet spot between cooling power, looks, and noise levels. But this CORSAIR kit, it's pretty much nailed it on all fronts. And there's one thing about it that really stands out. First up, the ARGB compatibility is a game changer. If you've ever struggled with getting RGB fans to play nice with your setup, you'll love how easy this kit makes it. It comes with a 3-pin ARGB adapter that just works with compatible motherboards. No extra controllers needed. It's a real time saver. Performance-wise, these fans can crank up to 1,850 RPM, pushing out about 59 CFM of air. That's plenty to keep your PC running cool. Sure, some hardcore users might wish for even higher RPMs, but for most builds, this is more than enough cooling power. The RGB lighting is pretty sweet too. You've got 8 LEDs you can control individually, so the lighting effects are super vibrant and customizable. Whether you want a subtle glow or a full-on light show, these fans can do it. And if you're already using CORSAIR's ICUE software, syncing up the lighting with your other gear is a breeze. But here's the kicker. These fans are seriously quiet. We're talking just 27.3 decibels. That's whisper quiet, folks. You can game, work, or binge watch without fan noise driving you nuts. Setting them up is pretty straightforward, especially if you're already in the CORSAIR ecosystem. A lot of users say they're super easy to install and get running. One small thing though, some people mention that the fans feel a bit lighter than they expected. It makes you wonder about long-term durability, but from what I've seen, they seem sturdy enough for regular use. When it comes to bang for your buck, this kit is solid. You're getting great cooling, awesome RGB lighting, and quiet operation without breaking the bank. It's a great way to upgrade multiple fans in one go. To wrap it up, the CORSAIR RGB 120mm fan kit is a great pick if you want to boost both cooling and looks in your PC. Yeah, there are a couple of small gripes about RPM limits and how light they feel, but overall, people seem to really dig these fans. They offer good value and performance, making them a solid choice for most PC builds. If you want to check them out yourself, there's a link in the description with more details and user reviews. let's check out the Asiahorse 360mm RGB fan. If you've ever struggled with cable management, you'll love this. The three 120mm fans come in a unified design, making installation a breeze and cutting down on cable mess. It's perfect if you want to boost your PC's cooling without the usual headaches. Now, let's talk looks. The RGB lighting on this thing is pretty sweet. Each fan has 56 addressable RGB LEDs that you can control individually. Whether you're into Aura Mystic Light or Polychrome Sync, you can create some really cool effects. It definitely adds a wow factor to your build. Performance-wise, these fans don't disappoint. They use PWM technology, so you can fine-tune the speed. This helps with efficient cooling and makes your fans last longer. They run pretty quiet too, with speeds from 800 to 1800 RPM. The airflow maxes out at 66.5 cubic feet per minute, and noise levels range from 16 to 34.3 decibels. Great for gaming or everyday use without driving you crazy with noise. But there's something you should know. Some users have mentioned that under heavy load, these fans can get a bit louder, up to about 45 decibels during benchmarks. If you're sensitive to noise, that might bug you. Also, few people had issues with the plastic sheets that come on the fans for shipping. If you forget to take them off, they can mess with how the fans work. Another small annoyance is the screw size. They're pretty tiny, which can make installation a bit fiddly in some cases. And because of the chain design, you can't turn off individual fans, which might not be ideal for everyone. But there's a reason these are popular. Despite these little hiccups, the Asiahorse 360mm RGB fan is great value for money. Users have seen real improvements in airflow and temperature control, with some reporting their temps dropped by several degrees after installing these. The fact that they work with different motherboards and RGB software is a big plus, making them versatile for various setups. To sum it up, the Asiahorse 360mm RGB fan does a solid job of cooling while looking pretty awesome. They're easy to install and work with lots of different systems, which is why PC builders and gamers like them. Yeah, there are a few minor issues, but overall, the performance and looks make them worth considering if you want to upgrade your PC cooling. If you want to know more, check out the link in the description. Now, let's check out the EZDIY-FAB 120mm RGB Case Fan. If you're looking to add some flair to your PC build, these fans are pretty cool. The tri-aperture design gives you some really nice lighting effects both inside and outside the fan, which can make your setup look pretty sweet. It's like having a little light show in your case. But there's more to these fans than just looks. These fans run at 1300 RPM, which does a decent job of keeping your system cool. You get an airflow of 26.16 CFM, and they keep the noise down to about 23.2 decibels. That means you're getting good cooling without too much noise, which is great for gaming at night or when you need to focus on work. One thing I really like is the EZDIY-FAB Fan Hub X. With its 21-key remote, it makes it super easy to change LED effects, colors, brightness, and even fan speed. The hub can handle up to 6 fans, which is nice if you're going all out on your build. Just a heads up though, the adhesive for the fan controller doesn't stick too well to metal cases, so you might need to get creative with how you mount it. Setting these up is pretty straightforward, and they work with different motherboard RGB headers. They support popular RGB software like ASUS Aura and MSI RGB, which is handy. The cables could be a bit longer though. If you've got a bigger case, you might find yourself doing some cable gymnastics. One thing to keep in mind is that these use proprietary connectors. They work great with the included hub, but it might be a pain if you want to mix and match with other fan brands later on. On the plus side, these fans are really quiet. The 8 anti-vibration rubber pads do a good job of cutting down on vibrations. They're some of the quietest fans I've used. The self-lubricated bearing and friction-reducing materials help keep the noise down and improve cooling efficiency. I should mention that some users have had issues with the RGB, like getting one defective fan in a pack. It doesn't seem to be a widespread problem, but it's worth knowing. The good news is that their customer support seems pretty responsive and helpful if you do run into issues. All in all, the EZDIY-FAB 120mm RGB Case Fan gives you good bang for your buck. You get nice RGB lighting, quiet operation, and decent airflow. There are a few small drawbacks, but the overall quality and customer support make it a solid choice for sprucing up your gaming rig or workstation. If you want to know more, there's a link in the description with all the details. Now, let's talk about the Asiahorse 120mm RGB PC Fans. These fans have been making waves in the PC building community, and for good reason. First off, the cooling performance is pretty impressive. If you've ever had your PC turn into a mini furnace during a gaming session, you'll appreciate these fans. They use PWM control, so you can adjust the speed through software, maxing out at 2000 RPM and pushing 68.5 CFM of airflow. What does that mean for you? Your CPU and GPU stay cool, even when you're pushing your system to its limits. Many users have reported noticeable drops in temperature, which is great for both performance and the lifespan of your components. Now, let's get to the fun part, the RGB lighting. It's not just a gimmick. It actually looks really good. You've got 12 streaming modes, 6 monochrome modes, and 8 rhythmic modes to play with. So whether you want a subtle glow or a full-on light show, these fans have got you covered. There's even a wireless RGB controller that syncs the lights with your music, which is pretty cool if you're into that sort of thing. One thing I really like about these fans is how easy they are to install. The interlocking connectors mean you only need one cable per fan cluster. It might not sound like a big deal, but trust me, when you're trying to manage cables in a cramped case, every little bit helps. But it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Some users have mentioned that the connectivity options are a bit limited. You can only use these fans in clusters, which might be a problem if you need to place individual fans in specific spots. Also, the proprietary cables can be a bit restrictive if you're planning a unique setup. Another thing to keep in mind is that these fans are sold in packs of 3. If you've got a smaller case, you might end up with more fans than you need. It's not a deal breaker, but it's worth considering. Despite these drawbacks, I think the Asiahorse fans offer pretty good value for money. They cool well, look great, and are easy to set up. Plus, they're surprisingly quiet, even at full speed. They stay under 29.2 decibels. That's quieter than a whisper in a library. Price-wise, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck here. High performance and cool aesthetics without emptying your wallet. And from what I've heard, their customer service is pretty responsive if you run into any issues. To sum it up, if you're looking to upgrade your PC's cooling and add some flair to your setup, the Asiahorse 120mm RGB PC fans are definitely worth checking out. They're not perfect. The pros outweigh the cons in my book. If you want to see more details or read some user reviews, I've left a link in the description below.